Alright, so here we are with the Dolmar, or the Makita 7900. I have fired it up. I'll tell you what I did to it afterwards. We'll see how it goes. I freshly sharpened the chain, but the rakers are a little bit low, so it might be a little bit grabby. I don't know, we'll see. I can't go all the way through this log or I'll rock the chain, so I'm going to be really conscious of not going too far. But this will be, I got to tune it in and you know, see how it does. Alright, let's see if this does any better. This is a used but never before sharpened C83. Fingers crossed. Alright, let's put this bar and chain on the 064 and see how she cuts. Okay, Ike Turner, the 064, built by Jeff Seacombe, leave nothing stock. right off the rip, the 064 feels a lot stronger. It does. But we've also seen that proven false when comparing it to the 281 XP. The 281 XP, Bobby Boucher, that Pat Cajun built, does not feel nearly as strong or fast as this does, yet it is. So it's the anti-vibe on this thing. I'm not going to let it get the better of me. Which one was actually more powerful and faster? It feels like this one is, but we won't know until we go to the tape, and we'll see. We'll see, and then we will think about it, make decisions. You know, this thing has an advantage over the Makita by about 6 cc's. It also has a 2 millimeter longer stroke, so it is inherently a torqueier saw. But they should be extremely comparable, and I think that they will be. We'll just have to look. We'll have to look and see. That's the only thing that we can do. All right, so what do we think? I know what I think. I think I'm very happy with that because the 064 runs like titties. It is so nice. Okay, and getting that 7900 to match it, you know, one might be just a little bit faster than the other, maybe. Won't know unless I did an actual proper whack off, because, you know, I had no way to gauge how far I went. Sometimes I went a little further with this saw. Sometimes I went a little further with this saw. But you can tell by the videos, they're extremely on par, evenly matched, and we're good. That's, you know, could I go back into that cylinder and get even more out of it? Possibly. Possibly. I don't know. But the way it is, I'm very happy with it. If it can run as good as that 064, then I've built a nice saw. Because remember, that 064 is 2 millimeter longer stroke. So that was a 36-inch bar buried. You know, it ended up getting completely buried in that oak. And that oak is good and solid steel. There's nothing going on with that, and like it's not rotten or anything like that. So that's quite an accomplishment. It runs really well now. It never ran like that before. So, and another thing to be said about that Dolmar is it is really smooth. It's got really great anti-vibe to it, and so it's cooking along and it's not vibrating you, and you're like, I mean, it feels all right, but it's in reality, it's got quite a punch to it. So, very happy with this. So, how did I do it? All right. First off, I got to give thanks to Matt House, uh, Ethan Trainer, and Jeff Seacombe. All three of those guys, and there may have been others. Forgive me if I forget you. I get a lot of people communicating with me, and I'm not really a very good communicator. So, but I get a lot of people communicating with me and giving me different ideas, and I just chose what I liked. So there we go. So one thing that was consistent across the board is everybody was telling me that I should take 40 thousandths off the base and then cut the squish to give me my 20 thousandths squish. What I ended up doing was I took 40 thousandths off the base. There we go. Oh, all right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I put the exhaust back where it was before. It was at 98.6 before. Now it's a solid 98 on the exhaust. It was just solid 98 on the exhaust. I'm happy with the results, and so therefore I'm glad that I didn't go past that. I had some recommending a higher exhaust, and it may have ran better, may have ran just as good. We won't know because as it is, that thing's running great. So I'm happy with it. But so 98 on the exhaust, and which is where I was before. So what's the difference now? Well, the difference is all in that squish. So Ethan was the one that really pointed out to me my flaw. Sorry, I was looking at that. Whenever I raised the exhaust height without doing any machine work, well, I just effectively lowered my compression. And I was like, okay. And yeah, it's still hard to pull over because it's a big saw. Big saws are hard to start. I mean, it's not too bad, but still, anyways. So that made sense to me. That's the big problem. I was also really worried about the intake. Most people were saying, the intake is too much duration on the intake. I got it at it was at 83, and whenever I machined it, it dropped it down to 86 point something, like 86.6, I think, which is a lot of intake. And everybody, they talk about these Domars, and they go, you got to have, you can't go past 80 on the intake. And, maybe that works for you. That, I get it. But are you doing anything else to the intake? Because, me, I don't widen, I don't do a bunch of work that I think is unnecessary. So my intake may be smaller than your intake, and therefore I can get away with this 86 degrees. But Ethan is the one that was like, leave that alone. It's fine. And he showed me the saw that he was running at Sawfest was running 86 on the intake. Now, I was a little bit worried because I bet you his transfers are considerably higher or lower than mine. Yeah, lower. My transfers, I squared them off and cleaned them up a little bit because he had said, do that. And I tried to do that as minimal as possible, but I still ended up affecting the transfer height. And so where they were before, I had them at 125 with all of the machine work and everything. And final, we're at transfers. We're opening at 126. Yeah, 126. So my intake is at 86.6. Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers right there. Exhaust is at 98, and the transfers are at 126. And I'm happy. And so I'm a pretty hard customer to please too with this stuff. So, and I wanted to go back in this for Randy. Randy, I think, was pretty happy with it to begin with, but I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of that. Maybe he didn't want to say, this sucks, Bodie. I don't know. But now it's running the way that I think that it should. You could tell that, I mean, you couldn't, but I was running them. The 064 definitely had more sustained RPM in the cut whenever we got to the really, really taking up all of that 36-inch bar. The 064 was able to handle that better. It's overall a more powerful saw. You know, it's bigger displacement and longer stroke, and it's a more powerful saw. What can I say? It does really well. It shines with that long bar on it. Really, that's a freaking nice saw. Um, and thank you, Jeff. Jeff Seacombe built that. Leave Nothing Stock. Check out his channel. He's doing some great work. But the Makita, you can tell I feel like it has more RPM. But anyways, from this test, they look really on par. I mean, really, 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 really on par, evenly matched. And if I can get that saw to run evenly matched with that 064 with a 36-inch bar on it, then it's good. We're good. And there you have it. Now, if I was to do an actual proper whack off with this thing, well, for one thing, it'd be a smaller chunk of wood. So, because it just would, all right? That's what I have to deal with. And in a smaller chunk of wood, I'd feel real confident that the 7900 would actually beat the 064, like beat it, because I do think that it is pulling higher RPMs than the 064 is. So, anyways, and then there goes the whole, well, you could just put an 8-pin sprocket on the 064 and then beat it. Nah, whatever. I can only do so much, guys. So, but I'm happy. Big thank you to the guys that actually reached out and gave me some ideas and talked through this with me, and success. So, Randy, I think that you're going to be really happy with your Makita now. It's more in line with what it should have been altogether. Before I end, to all the people that say that high blow down and stuff like that for these Makitas, listen, whatever worked for you, worked for you. That's great, man. Could this thing have been way better if I had a 78 intake and a 138 degrees on my transfers? Possibly, I don't know. But the one thing that I can't stop trying to squash, I hope that people come around to my way of thinking, is blowdown doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean anything. I know it's an easy metric to talk about, but what means something is the distance between the bottom of your intake to the top of your transfers. That right there, the amount of time that you have to squish what's in the crankcase, that's what might need to be really high for these Dolmars to act right. Okay, blowdown is just, that's when the gas, the exhaust gases are just going out. Can you screw up power by messing with your blowdown? Yes, but it's because you're messing with your crankcase pressure, right? This has a really open flowing exhaust, and if the crankcase was set up differently, which it's not, right? But if it was, then you would be able to run, 18 degrees of blowdown on this thing, But you can't, because this thing was built to enjoy high crankcase pressure. That's just the way that they seem to work. And here I am talking like I know what I'm talking about, even though this is the only 7900 I've ever built. I know, I get that. But what I'm talking about is the theory and the way things are actually working, not just a numbers game. The numbers game is whenever you're going, they need 30 degrees of blowdown. They need to have 30 degrees of blowdown. Why? Does it take longer for the exhaust to get out of these saws? No. So why do you think that it needs all this time for the exhaust to leave? It doesn't. What it needs is higher crankcase pressure, and you get that by running lower lower upper transfers, and a higher intake floor. That gives you more duration to compress that stuff in the crankcase. Anyways, I know it's been years that people are talking about blowdown, and I'm kind of pushing against the stream here and going, no, blowdown's nothing. But, and you know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's the way that I'm thinking and it's working for me. And if the way that you're thinking works for you, I encourage it. All right. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter about how much power you're making, how much fun you're having, how much torque, how many RPMs. It all matters about how fast that wood gets cut. All right. And some people might be out there going, it's all about your chain, brother. Because let me tell you, without a chain, you saw it at the beginning of this video. No way, not even a chance. That chain, I could have been the one to ruin it, but I don't think that I was. That chain I got with a different saw, and they had taken the rakers way down to like 35 thousandths. And I thought, I can save this chain because it's a 36-inch loop of C83 chain. That stuff's expensive. And so I still think that I probably can save it. I've just got to file on it even more than what I did. And, well, that sucks. But anyways, thanks again to everybody that helped, and I hope you enjoyed the video.